Okay, now we're in chapter 12, problems and issues in sport. Sports have a lot of problems. You can't turn on the television and even listen to sports on the radio and not hear that all different types of sports are plagued with their own problems. It is important to be knowledgeable about these problems if you're going to deal with any type of sport activity. Understand the issues and problems so that you can be confronted and solved. Having a position, being able to articulate that position and be able to defend it, understand differing and opposing viewpoints is very critical. Sport has been very important for children, youth, and adults. It strengthens the sport culture for the next generation. There are problems, though, that need to be addressed, and this chapter, we're going to address some of these problems. Your responsibility as a coach or someone that is going to lead a rec league is to ensure that children have a positive experience. Contribute to developing and sustaining these programs in the areas. If you're a physical educator or a fitness leader or you work in any sports setting. The good news is a lot of boys and girls between the age of 5 and 15 are participating in sports. And most of these sports are coached by voluntary coaches. The bad news, we have a 60 to 80% dropout of these organized activities, mostly by girls, so the highest rate. So what are some of the reasons? Switching to forms of extreme to action sports, become involved in school sports. They're not having fun. They find more interesting pastimes. And then by the age of 13, 70% drop out of youth sports. The problems that are cited are problems with adults, coaches, and parents. Starting at a young age is okay if the program is properly designed and age appropriate. In 2005, the Citizenship Through Sports Alliance kind of graded some community-based youth sport programs, and the grades are not real great. In child-centered philosophy, it's a D. Coaching, C. Health and safety, C. Officiating made it a little bit better, a B. Parental behavioral involvement, a D. The National Youth and Sports Association have guidelines. It assists parents in choosing the right program. But also, if you're going to be a coach, it would be great to look at these guidelines and incorporate these guidelines into your program. Some problems in youth and child sport is cooperation and competition, developmentally appropriate sport, that's big. Specialization is a problem, child and youth sport injuries, coaching children and youth, impact of sport on family, and unequal access based on socioeconomical status. When we look at cooperation and competition, overemphasis is on competition early on in the young years. Activities should be small-sided, motivating, and immediate gratification and enjoyment. Overemphasis is on being a performance ethic. At all costs, avoid organized competitive sports before the age of 8. I know a lot of sports that start before that, but research has found that it is at high risk if you do it before the age of 8. They are not emotionally ready and intellectually ready for that type of competition. Programs for children should involve a lot of physical activity, develop skills, use large muscle groups, and really the center should be on cooperative and play fairly. Ensure equal time playing. The happy kids are out on the field playing. The sad kids are the ones who are sitting on the sideline watching the happy kids play. Specialization used to only be limited at college. Now we're seeing it early as middle school. 2 to 3 sport athletes in high school are a rarity. Emphasis on year-round training. Specialization within the sport as well, meaning that if you are 9 years old and a coach says you're a pitcher in baseball, you train as a pitcher, and that might not have been the best position for you. The NASB's position is specialization under the age of 15 is associated with more developmental risks than rewards. Participating regularly in a variety of sports have benefits short and long-term development and continued participation. Kids get really bored fast and drop out when they keep doing the same things. When we look at some sport injuries, we have some strains and joint ligament problems, muscle strains, tendons, contusions of muscle tendons and surrounding tissue, fractures of the long bones and the axial skeleton. We have 40% of all sports-related injuries are treated in the hospital of ages 5 to 14. It includes emergency rooms, treatments for concussions, which are serious. Overuse syndrome, an example would be Little League elbow, knee and ankle problems, damage to spleen, liver, kidney, and bowel. The growing concern, parents and coaching kids to push through the pain and too far, and we have a term for this. So too much emphasis is on volunteers. Too much dependence is on volunteers, untrained parents and coaches. I understand that we need coaches, but some parents and volunteers are not the best choice. Background checks really need to be required, and some education it really needs to. Evidence on volunteer coaching practices. Too much is on evaluation, too much is on criticism, too few supportive interactions, and volunteer coaches can improve from education programs. A risk for volunteer coaches to adopt a techno-science approach, too much focus on developing techniques and tactics. They are wanting to win, and they develop those tactics to win at the expense of children's skills. The impact on the families, cost incurred from camps, equipment, private instructions, travel, hotels, that's the biggies. Also, year-round focus on one activity, time away from family, obsession with potential college scholarship. Not all of these kids are going to get scholarships. Carnegie Council on Adolescent Development. Young athletes who live in low income are the most likely to benefit, but the least likely to be able to participate. Also, positive developments, availability of coaching education, that's positive. Increasing requirements for background checks, that's important. Resources for parents about developmentally appropriate sports so that they can see if their child is being mistreated or in a sport that they should not be in. Better understanding of injury risk from overtraining and sports specialization. So what are some negative trends? Decline in the number of publicly funded programs, increased privatization of sport clubs, and segregation of programs by status, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic. Decreasing opportunities for children in low-income communities, more children seeking alternative to adult-controlled organized sport. Problems, exclusion, not allowing kids to play, only the best kids play. Youth and interscholastic injuries, eligibility and past play rules, specialization, performance-enhancing supplements, coaching issues, funding through pay-to-play plans and booster clubs. The inclusion of the varsity model, sport in high school, it excludes the majority of the students. Only a small percentage of kids in high school play sports. Accessible to the most talented. Where do you go if you're not good enough? And this is very unique in the USA. An estimated 2 million injuries, 500,000 doctor visits, and 30,000 hospitalizations annually. Highest injury rate, football, wrestling, boys and girls soccer, and girls basketball. Higher in competition than in practice. Most common injuries, sprains, contusions, fractures, and concussions. Causes, improper technique, ill-fitting equipment, errors in training, pressure from coaches or parents, failure of early injury recognition, specialization in the single sport, which causes overuse injuries. Should high school students be required to maintain a certain GPA? What do you think? What if after-school sport is seen as an extracurricular activity? Why or why not? What if it has basic education values? Why or why not? Specialization appears related to two important development in American sport: recognition of the importance of weight and endurance training. Consequence, year-round practice is expected. With increased availability, hopes for an athletic scholarship have increased as well. Performance enhancement supplements on the rise in high school. Common use, creatine, anabolic steroids, steroid precursors. Primary uses enhance recovery after workouts, increase muscle mass and strength. The side effects: weight gain, nausea, muscle cramps, kidney damage, may also cause heart, liver damage, halt bone growth, and result in permanently short stature. Warning signs: behavioral, emotional changes, which includes aggressiveness, changes in body build, rapid weight gain, development of upper body, increased acne, facial bloating, needle marks in the buttocks or thighs, enlarged breasts in boys and smaller in girls. What should be done in the role of coaches, schools, and administrators on these performance enhancements? Given concerns about increased, states or consider legislations designed to reduce or eliminate. Texas, New Jersey, and Florida now require random testing. The school coach as a teacher coach. Teachers who fill both teaching and coaching roles run risk of spending more energy on coaching than teaching. Involvement of teachers in school sport is no accident. Sport is seen as having educational value and should be conducted. Coaching certification is required and only in some states. Teacher certificate requirements for coaches is also only required in some states. Pay varies widely through the use of supplement contracts, continuing issued, hired, primary for teaching or coaching. Parent, coaches, and town people can create pressures for high school athletes that are counterproductive. Added pressure in school where booster clubs fund athletes. Main sources of pressure: parents, fans in the community, and boosters. Pay-to-play plans. Budget shortfalls in schools created by the reduced tax base. Rise in the use of user fees. Fees can go up to $500 per sport. A lot of kids can't pay that. Some states declare that as discriminating. And this is the end of Chapter 12. Okay, we're going to look at Chapter 11, which is Sport Programs and Professions. A lot of people want to know, if I have a degree in human movement, what can I do with it? Or physical education, if I don't want to teach in a school system, what can I do with this degree? Hopefully this chapter will help you to understand of all the many different careers out there for this particular degree. Sport is an unprecedented economic and cultural phenomena across all ages, but it used to not be so, and we know that through history. The National Council on Youth Sports Participation estimates over 60 million American youth participate in at least one organized sport. Girls' participation has increased significantly, but we also know that they decrease at a faster rate than boys. Most of this participation occurs in schools or community-owned facilities. Historically, too much emphasis was on winning, and that really turns a lot of people off. If you're an elite athlete and you dominate other people, that's a cool thing to win. But what if you're not, but you want to still participate? It is not fun always losing every time. The new emphasis is on sports-based youth development programs, targeting competence and sports skill through motivational climate that focus on gradual improvement and doing one's best. It doesn't matter where you start. You can constantly improve your sports skills. Informal participation is what I used to do as a kid. It's a pickup game. Have a lot of action done in the backyard, optimized personal involvement, challenging, exciting, typically through close scores, allow participations to reaffirm their friendship and fellow competitors. After-school sport and physical activity programs negatively affected by changes in schools. A lot of people live a long distance from schools. When I grew up, I could walk to school. It was less than a mile away. Now, it's several miles away. Community programs are difficult to sustain because of the funding and transportation. When budgets are cut, community programs are generally the first things to go. Out-of-school nonprofit community programs, some have organized through local organizations, other through national organizations. If you're interested in community sports programs, take a look and see what is available in this area. Often sponsored by national services, an example is the Kiwanis. Out-of-school nonprofit, the main reason of dropouts, participation starts early at 3 or 4 years. I know in dance, some children start at the age of 3, in gymnastics also, and in karate. Girls' participation has increased steadily to over 40%. Dropout rate is around the ages of 11 and 18. Why are they dropping out? Rise in sport as a cultural force has resulted in commercial sports-specific training for young children and summer sports camp. Great career, you can have your own gym, and instead of working out elite athletes, you can work out children in sports-specific skills. It's a great occupation. Then we have day camps and overnight camps. Commercial sports-specific training for children, the key concerns is developmental appropriateness and early specialization. Overuse training. If a child trains his whole life to be a pitcher on baseball, we're going to have some overload and some problems with shoulder and rotator cuff injuries. Sports-specific fee-for-service, most common through clubs. This is also another career avenue for you to take. Extensive, in-depth, and year-long training. Coached, be more experienced coaching. And a lot of times these places want you to be certified. They want you to have specific training. Just because you can play a sport doesn't mean that you are qualified to teach a sport. Various levels of competition, recreation, local, and select. Examples of specific fee-for-services organizations are Amateur Athletic Union, organizes local, regional, and national competition, emphasis exposure on gaining athletic scholarships to colleges and universities. We know in soccer that soccer college coaches go to select soccer tournaments. They rarely go to high school soccer games. And same way with golf. So those type of training is another way to get your foot in the door if you want to be a coach. Organizations that support youth, Youth Sport Coalition of NASPE, Center for Sport Parenting, and National Alliance of Sport, Youth Sports. Approximately 7.5 million volunteers in youth sport coaches in America. Few have instructional education and development. This is a real problem. You're coaching and you do not have the knowledge base of the children's maturation, what they're capable of doing or not doing. They're not small adults. Children are not small adults. Over 500,000 paid professional youth sport coaches. Why is having been a player yourself and having watched a lot of sport on TV not sufficient to be a qualified coach? I said that earlier. It's not. How is the United States different from many other countries in terms of supporting child and youth sports? A lot of their coaches are trained. They're not allowed to coach without training. Anyone in America could go in a league and coach without any particular training at all. National Youth Sports Coaching Association has an education program. There are over 1 million of coaches now certified. They must pass and pledge to uphold the Code of Ethics. Constitutionally, education is a state function, so is sport in high school. It is not a federal function. High school is unique in America. National Federation of State High School Associations serves state high school athletic programs and track participation. Remember, your local high school athletic program is not run by the federal government. It is run by the local government. Organization of inter-school sports, sport enrollment-based classification. We have 1A, 2A, 3A, etc. Governed by state associations. They're non-governmental. Establishes rules, participation, length of season, all of that. Here in Tennessee is TSSAA. Organization, financing of school sport varies from states, funded directly from tax revenues through regular school budget, and some states where it's considered part of the education. The problem is this, that most students are not allowed to participate in inter-school sports. There's only the elite. Most students do not benefit from this program. That's problematic because we're paying for these programs and very few children get the opportunity to use these programs. When viewed as an extracurricular, it must be self-sufficient. There are booster clubs, and most of your band in school are 100% funded by boosters. School coaches. With increased participation, more coaches are needed. Most were certified teachers, many trained as physical education specialists. Probably the best coaches come from that area. Current trend, many fewer certified teachers now serve as coaches. Few have very specific preparation of coaching. Again, just because you played high school football doesn't mean that you are qualified to teach high school football. School coaches, rise of coaching education programs, difficulties in requiring certification. Examples of these programs are American Sport Education, programs for athletic coaching education, and fundamentals of coaching. If you want to be a coach, I think you need to check out these organizations. Athletic Coaching Education, NASB, develops national coaching standards, and 2000 National Council of Accreditation of Coaching Education. Interscholastic sport, post-World War I, dramatic growth of college sport, formation of athletic conferences, governance of issues such as eligibility, organization, competition, all of those things. An example would be NCAA. National governance, NCAA, NAIA. NCAA, 3 levels of division: 1, A, AA, AAA, Division 2, Division 3. Nearly national championship, 19 women's sports, 20 men's sports. Recently restructured, increased autonomy for each division. NCAA, lingering genders equity in both athletic representation and administration. NAIA, 25 championships for 13 sports in Division 1 and 2. Rapid rise in particular positions, coaches and assistant coaches, athletic directors, sport information directors, sport business managers, sport trainers, and sports medicine experts, which have a required certification. We have recreation intramural programs, another area of a job opportunity, tremendous growth, wide range of competitive and non-competitive activities, access for students, faculty, and staff, recent addition, youth summer day camps. Professional sport is first a business, elite only, extremely low odds of making it. Few people earn wealth. It is a very short career, emergent of a professional, non-playing positions. Governed, overseen by parent organizations, the MLB, the NBA, NFL, etc. No qualifying certification requirements for most roles. In 1990, efforts to increase hiring of minorities in coachings of administration has happened. What does organize refer to? Governing by a sponsoring agency. Regular formal competition, records are kept, officials are provided. Sponsored by local organizations like the Rotary, Kiwanis, private, those are your organized recreation sports. They have a broad range of activities. Staple activities are softball, basketball, volleyball, touch football, varying levels, type of competition, recreation, co-ed. They're for everyone. Similar opportunities exist on college campuses, also another area of a vocation for you. Sports for people with disabilities, tremendous growth since federal legislation, broad impact school, recreation, sport involvement. Few states have targeted this area. Examples would be Minnesota and Georgia. Sports for people with disability, numerous organizations support sport on this. We have Special Olympics, which is sport programs for people with intellectual disabilities, instructional programs for training. A worldwide reach, 200 programs in 170 countries. And this is important in 89 unified sports. This targets inclusion. If you don't know what inclusion is, this is a sport that has both non-disabled individuals playing along with individuals with disabilities. In 1960, first Paralympic held, now to be in conjunction with the Olympics. Masters or veteran sports, strong growth, typical for people age 40 and older, is graded in 5-year age groups. Prominent sports, swimming, track field, road racing, bowling. Masters level, World Master Athletics, World Games. These are your master older people. World Master Games, emergent statewide and festivals, serves as potential model for younger generations. Non-participant sport involvement takes many forms. Emergence of non-playing vocation reflects a specific area, broader field. A few require specific training certification. You can look at sports medicine, management, athletic training, and even sports psychology, another area of vocation. Sports management and administration growth, accredited university programs now have this. Commission on Sports Management Accreditation. NASB, along with the North American Society for Sports, developed competency standards for sports management. Directory of University Programs, non-participant sports vocation. Participation in sport has not increased evenly across population. Minorities still have less access to it. Disparities in coaching and administration ranks continue at many of the levels. Title IX, we had a surge of girls' sports participation. However, in the 80s, we have a dramatic drop, and still few females are in administration roles. Sports and technology, we have equipment design, strength and conditioning regiments, and nutrition, tracking athletic performance via video, and research literature retrieval. And this is the end of Chapter 11. Okay, we're in Chapter 10, Basic Concepts of Sport. First of all, sport is an integral part of society throughout history. We know through past chapters of the books of the history regarding sport. It's been studied by scholars since the 50s, so we have a lot of data on it. In the 70s, national and global sport culture merged. It derives from play or the impulse of a human behavior. In your life, what has been your significant sport experience, if any? Were you a player, performer, official, coach, or even a spectator? Sport is important with an almost religious significance. Not to offend any religious individual, it can be compared to religion. And to some people, it is their religion. It is an organized and dramatized in a religious way by the rituals, by the costumes, by the scenes of power beyond your control. Someone enforces the rules. It teaches qualities that are religious in nature: perseverance, courage, sacrifice. It seeks perfection, and it has its heroes. Sport can be intensely communal for players and spectators. It provides a source of deep personal meaning, and it has the power to teach. It can teach you to reflect yourself and society. When we talk about leisure, play, games, and sports, we need to understand the difference between all of these. Leisure is an attitude of freedom or release from the demands of ordinary life. So you have school, that wouldn't be considered leisure. You have work, that would be not considered leisure. It's that free time you have, and it seems to be shrinking with every society. It seems like we have less and less leisure time. It's freely chosen. You're not obligated. If you're obligated to do something, then that's not true leisure. It's a discretionary time left over after all of life's commitments. Play is a institutionalized, sports is an institutionalized form of play. So play can be sport, a basic motivation in human activity, different from ordinary life or work, and does not produce a product like work. So in other words, if you're playing, it's not considered work. If you're a professional athlete and your job is playing a sport, that would not be considered play. We have some characteristics of play. First, it's free. You go about it, you volunteer for it. It's separate in places where time and space limits are fixed in advance, conducted in places designed especially for that activity. It's uncertain. Sport is most playful when competition is balanced. So if you feel stressed while you're playing a sport, then that's not really a fun play. Also, it's not very productive when you're looking at it economically. When wealth is produced, playfulness of the activity decreases. And that's what I mean by professional athletes. If they're making money playing football or basketball, then that's truly not play. They may find some other form of play. It's governed by rules. It's almost always regulated by rules that define the activity. It ensures fairness, helps produce a winner, a social agreement which will not adhere to destroy its playfulness. It's governed by make-believe. Play not governed by rules is dominated by make-believe. Yet it still seems that sport play when pretending to be a favorite or star player. Examples of when sport is not playful. When we have experience in physical education, fitness should have strong play elements for continued participation. If we're punishing kids through push-ups and running laps, they're not going to consider that a form of play. When we look at child's play and adult play, early knowledge about physical and social world is acquired through play. Kids learn play through just being spontaneous. Adults use it through calculation, really rituals, rules, that sort of thing. Appreciation for practice, skillfulness, rituals, traditions are what characterized by more mature forms of play. It challenges, obstacles are gradually increased. When sport is most playful, it is most meaningful for participants. So we look at the definition of games. Any form of playful competition where the outcome is determined by physical skills, strategy, or chance employed by singly or in combination. Remember this is important. Not all games are sports, but sports are always games. Why are games like dice and cards, like poker, not considered sports? Well, it doesn't require true physical skills. It's just really a lack of chance. What about games like chess, bridge, and poker? They're even broadcasted on television. Games, we have primary rules which define the game as it is to be played. Changing these would fundamentally change the nature of the game. We have primary rules. In football, the scoring aspect of it. Secondary rules are things like that you've added, like not roughing the kicker or things like that. That would be considered secondary rules. Games. So how do games gradually evolve into sports? When they have standardized rules, they have a governing body, they encompass a growing sense of tradition that binds people to it. Recent games that have reached or are reaching sports status. Again, games, classification of games. We have invasion games, which are soccer. Target games, an example would be golf. Net or court games would be tennis. And striking, fielding games, which would be baseball. Competition in sport. No competition does not equal game. Some view competition at all costs as positive. Others view it inherently bad and wish to make sports less competitive. Most always is defined as rivalry in which opponents strive to gain something at the expense of each other. Emphasizes the use in economics and business, leads to seeing it as zero-sum competition. Now, zero-sum competition is that one person gains at the expense of another. So a person wins and another person loses. That's zero-sum competition. A broader, richer definition is coming together, seeking competence, different forms of rivalry, and victory is only momentarily, it's fleeting. Carrying it beyond the playing field diminishes the play element. In other words, you have a winner, you have a loser, everybody high-five, you go home, get a milkshake at McDonald's, and then you move on. Reflects development of common codified rules, the need for referees. We know officials are there only to ensure fairness of the and really there to kind of police, to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and it's fair. Emergence of sport organization at the local, state, national, or international, and tracking of records. The public nature of institutionalized sport, it becomes increasingly public and important to people. It precipitates other professions and businesses. It becomes a more central and influential society or institution. When we're talking about being a spectator, thought to be inappropriate at one point in time, how spectators experience sports may be through intellectually or emotional. Fanatic, fan, phantom, Latin for temple or feast. That's kind of the definition of fan. If we're looking at aesthetics in sport, the performers are subjects of art, which is sculptures or painting. To understand aesthetics values of sports, we see the art within the sport itself. If the sport is art, then it's most certainly a performing art like music, dance, and drama. Performance itself is judged. We look at it through ice skating. We look at it through gymnastics. We look at it through dance. Ballroom dance is considered kind of a dance sport. Aesthetic qualities is harmony, form, dynamics, flow, gracefulness, rhythm, and poise. What aesthetic beauty can be found in a rugby match, a marathon run, or an ice hockey game? A well-developed body in motion, a brilliant play perfected, the drama of the competition, and the unity of an entire performance. What about ethics? It is the study of value, how people should behave. Traditional term is sportsmanship. Better term, fair play. Sport can teach both ethical and unethical behavior. Fair play in the British tradition, rooted in tradition, is the British sport play. Fair play is the way of life. Play by the rules. Do not take unfair advantage of an opponent, even when the opportunity arises. Treat opponents with respect always, and really keep your composure in victory and defeat. Fair play in the British tradition, ever-present tension around fair play, victory within the letter and the spirit of the rules, victory at any cost. Rules and the nature of games, cheating and organized competition is a growing problem. Yes, definitely. We've had a lot in the news. Can you actually win if you've intentionally broken the rules? Some people think that that's an okay thing. Purpose of penalties. General belief, sport experiences can make positive contribution to the development of children and youth. Good qualified persons to plan and deliver these programs. And this is the end of chapter 10. Now we're going to look at chapter 9, problems and issues in fitness. The importance of physical activity and fitness is really everyone's issue. It's a national health agenda. The health-related and motor performance-related fitness are both important. The increased life increased life, increased health costs, all of those things are impacted by lack of physical activity or physical activity itself. Life expectancy for current generations versus parents. We're going to find out that we are not living as long as we used to live. Our children are not, due to lack of physical activity. Most of today's occupations are sedentary. We go to the computer, we sit down for our 8 hours, we'll get up, get in the car and drive, and then get home and watch television or stay on the internet or all of those things. We rarely are forced to get any physical activity. The cost of healthy versus unhealthy food, we know we can go to McDonald's and get a value meal for $1, but yet you go to a Kroger's and get fruits and vegetables, they're much more expensive. Inadequate levels of health fitness now represent a really huge problem in the gross national product. U.S. healthcare spending is over $1.5 billion. Overweight and obesity is the second leading cause of death in the United States. Inadequate levels of physical activity are not simply an individual issue. It's a problem. It's a national problem. So how does the built environment change in the last 4 decades? There's 2 factors. One, calorie imbalance, intake versus how much we expend. It's easier for us to get food. You can get in your car and you can drive not even a block and you're at 5 fast food chains, where 30 years ago there wasn't nearly the number of fast food chains. It was more difficult. Most parents stayed home and ate, other than just driving through drive-through and getting food. The built environment boasts physical and social elements. So what are the parents' perceived barriers to physical activity? One is transportation, lack of opportunity for physical activity in immediate areas, expense, parents' lack of time, and concerns about neighborhood safety. It's very difficult to go and take a walk with your family if your neighborhood is not safe. So, believing versus behaving. Why do people who know and understand the importance of regular exercise still fail to exercise? I don't think there's a person in the United States who doesn't understand it's important to be physically active. But why do we not? Attractiveness versus alternative of activities. Watching a game versus being out playing a game. Watching a movie versus out playing or doing cartwheels in the front yard. Also, there's a problem with, okay, I'm going to get in shape, so I'm going to start exercising. So I start exercising too hard too soon, and I'm turned off, or either I get hurt. Making physical activity a part of every day. Start with a lower intensity activity, such as walking or cycling. Gradually increase both the pace and distance of the walk. Engage in lifestyle physical activities. In your 60s, you're not going to be able to go out on a soccer field and play a full game of soccer with 20 or 30-year-olds. So you're going to have to decide, what am I going to do in my older age? Begin to engage in some type of aerobic activity and more active forms of sport and recreation. Also, anaerobic activities are very important, like weightlifting. Making physical activity a part of everyday living. Engage in moderate to vigorous activity 30 minutes a day. Commit to a sustained involvement. Exercise in ways that are fun and satisfying. And establish exercise patterns that fit recreational interest. Making it part of every day. Employ self-testing skills, fitness planning, consumer information, related information. You can find all of this on special apps on your smartphone, on the internet, on tablets. There's so many devices that can help you get started. The first step to lifetime fitness is to start exercising regularly. Major motivations for youth: the desire to develop and demonstrate physical competence, be able to accept and support within a peer social group and appreciate support from significant adults, to have fun, activities, experiences need to be positive. Self-efficacy is a term that we've talked about in the past, but it is an important predictor of adoption of maintainable exercise behavior. Learning is more likely to be successful if it is consistent activities and is perceived as fun. If you're successful at an activity, your self-efficacy will go up. Engage in significant mastery experiences, so you need to start from beginner and work your way up. Observing persons similar to oneself succeed by sustained effort. Persuade persons that they have the capacity to succeed. If you're wanting to be a personal trainer, that's going to be your job. It is your job to make others feel confident in their physical activity. Start with simple activities and then move to more difficult ones. With youth, being able to see, access it, it does not develop overnight. It takes time. It takes a long time to develop the skills necessary to feel good about moving. The ultimate goal, the average person knows about the different kinds of fitness, what needs to be done to develop and maintain fitness, and what fitness products and services are appropriately given to fitness goals. That's our goal. Media as the problem by the way of false impressions, the image of a fit person, miracles that can occur quickly without any real effort. Take this pill and you're going to lose 80 pounds. Create instant experts who have celebrity status. If a celebrity loses 30 pounds, then they're the ones who's writing the books other than an exercise physiologist or a medical doctor. We need more information, technique, how to correctly perform a move, the dosage, how much or how less to use. Information is widely available. We need to go and obtain this information, make sure it's correct and safe information. Schools play a central role in this type of education. The evidence across all age groups, females are less active than males. Blacks and Hispanics are less active than whites. Black males are as active as white males, but black females fare much worse than white females. Young people from lower economic families tend to be less active than those from middle to upper income. Girls participate in sports in record numbers across all levels. Moderate to vigorous physical activity levels outside of organized sports, and they are declining. This is important. Girls drop out more than boys. Physical activities levels decline during adolescence, especially among black girls. We need to do something about that. And recent emphasis on promoting sustaining physical activity among adolescent girls. We have a big problem with this. So what about urban? And there's higher crime rates, higher density housing with fewer open spaces, working parents with little time for supervision of outdoor activities, relatively few recreational facilities, very little adult leadership. The playing field is not level. Those who need it the most and would benefit the most have the least access or opportunity. It's a structural problem. Remove the barriers and create supportive programs in such settings. We're going to look at certifications. ACSM certification is probably one of the most rigorous requirements. A public more informed about fitness are more likely to demand, the more likely people are to demand appropriate leadership in fitness. So not only are you going to need a degree if you're going to go into the fitness world, but you're going to also need a certification. We do not have a mandated certification in fitness or exercise leadership, but we should. The problem is you're going to have to go out and find these certifications. Fitness education must focus on long-term goals and changes lifestyle. What follows then is a measure of daily physical activity. From this perspective, valid indicators of one's fitness. Mass fitness testing with students competing against another is counterproductive. Does this mean that fitness testing in schools should be abolished? No, but we need to not compare students to each other, but to have our students set their own fitness goals. Use it to identify at-risk children, but respect the privacy during both testing and really working with these students. Award systems should be based on criteria references. Remember the difference between norm reference and criteria reference. Accumulate activity as well as performance fitness tests should become part of the evaluation. Self-testing can reduce some of the unfortunate side effects of mass fitness testing. Primary purpose is for diagnosis, providing feedback, setting goals, and charting improvement. The number of Americans aged 65 and older will double between 2030, 34.8 million, and 2070.3 million, a very dominant social political group. Fitness for older Americans is a major issue. Key issues: how to assess elderly, maintain productive lives and good quality. We need to increase physical and physiological function. Reduce risk of depression is a common element. People slow down because they get older? No, people get older because they slow down. Formative years in physical education is key in forming habits, especially in elementary schools. Overweight, obesity patterns in children with those most deficient in reading. Consequences of recent reduction in dose of physical activity. Main goal of physical activity physical education should be physical activity. Increase school physical education and physical activity throughout the day. Fitness need to be mass routine or running or push-ups or jacks once a year fitness testing. Many alternatives, more attractive programs need to be found. Continue problem, lack of time, look for other part of the school day. School as the hub of the family, school, and community connection, it becomes everyone's responsibility. Physical education teachers, classroom teachers, principals, parents, community. This is the end of Chapter 9.